Welcome back, Middle-earth Wanderers. We continue our mini-episode series on canon characters in the lead-up to Amazon's Rings of Power, which will be available starting at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. If you don't already have access to Amazon Prime or Amazon Video, use the links in the show notes to start a free trial. Today we'll explore two elves from the Rings of Power, Gil-Galad and Celebrimbor. I'll be drawing from the Lord of the Rings books, as well as J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion, and Unfinished Tales, and Carl Hostetter's book of Tolkien notes called The Nature of Middle-earth. If you would like to purchase any of these books, you can use the links in the show notes. Welcome! In the Lord of the Rings podcast, we wander the world of J.R.R. Tolkien by exploring the foundational epic stories from the deep past of Middle-earth. If you enjoyed Tolkien's books, or maybe Peter Jackson's movies, or perhaps you're excited for Amazon Studios' new series, The Rings of Power, and you want to dive deeper into the rich world of Middle-earth, then listen and subscribe. Magovanyan, fellow wanderers.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Gil-Galad is likely most well known for his role in the last alliance against Sauron, in which he teamed up with Elendil and Isildur to defeat Sauron, but perished in the same battle. Aragorn first introduces us to Gil-Galad in the chapter A Knife in the Dark, in the Fellowship of the Ring. Aragorn and the hobbits are camping out near Weathertop, and Aragorn is sharing some ancient tales. Quote, "It is told that Elendil stood there, watching for the coming of Gil-Galad out of the west, in the days of the last alliance. Sam even surprised the group by randomly spouting out some lines of Bilbo's poetry about Gil-Galad. Here's the last stanza. Quote, But long ago he rode away, and where he dwelleth none can say, for into darkness fell his star, in Mordor where the shadows are." Another reference to Gil-Galad is when Elrond is sharing his history in the chapter called The Council of Elrond. There, Elrond says that he was Gil-Galad's herald in the last battles against Sauron, and even fought alongside him and a few others when they engaged in combat with Sauron himself. He says, quote, "For the spear of Gil-Galad, Aeglos none could withstand." But these two references are at the very tail end of the Second Age. So what's Gil-Galad's backstory? As told in The Silmarillion, Gil-Galad was born way back in the First Age, and is the son of Fingon. And since you likely don't have the Elven family history chart memorized, let me try and trace it for you. Gil-Galad's father, Fingon, was the son of Fingolfin, who stayed in Valinor, and in turn was the son of Finwë, who was one of the 3 original ambassadors sent by the Elves to behold the light of the trees. Now, let's make it a little more confusing. Gil-Galad's father, Fingon, would be a nephew to Fëanor, the creator of the Silmarils. Gil-Galad is also cousins with Galadriel, and second cousins, once or twice removed, I'm not sure how that works, but second cousins to Celebrimbor, the crafter of the Rings of Power. Because of Morgoth's victories near the end of the First Age, Gil-Galad grew up mostly on the coasts, in the havens that were protected by Círdan the Shipwright. After the fall of Gondolin and Turgon was slain, Gil-Galad became High King of the Noldor, and he would remain so through the rest of the First Age and the Second Age. At the end of the First Age, when the Valar summoned the Noldor to return to Valinor, Gil-Galad was among those who chose to stay in Middle-earth, and with him dwelt a young Elrond. In the Second Age, Gil-Galad ordered the realm of Lindon, in the northwest corner of Middle-earth. He was suspicious of Annatar, the Lord of Gifts, but was not able to perceive that Annatar was actually Sauron the Deceiver, in a noble form. Because of his suspicions, he did not allow Annatar into the land of Lindon. Gil-Galad was also the original keeper of one of the 3 elven rings, the ring known as Vilya, the Ring of Air, and the greatest of the 3. This ring would later pass to Elrond after Gil-Galad's fall. Sorry, was that a spoiler? I guess we'll see. Gil-Galad befriended Elendil after the drowning of Númenor, and together they formed the Last Alliance. Quote, "For they perceived that Sauron would grow too strong and would overcome all his enemies one by one." Gil-Galad's name means Star of Radiance, and has the same Elvish roots as Galadriel's name, who again was his cousin, and apparently they both had really shiny hair. In Nature of Middle-earth, Tolkien explains that he was given that name, quote, "because of the radiance of his silver hair, armor, and shield, that, it is said, could even in the moonlight be seen from many leagues afar." I don't suppose that's good for stealth missions, but it was enough to defeat Sauron. Okay, let's take a look at Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor's origins are a little messy. I think I mentioned in Galadriel's episode that one tale has him in Gondolin, and in another he has a major crush on Galadriel, even though she chose Celeborn. And speaking of Celeborn, you'll perhaps notice a similarity in the names. Celeborn, Celebrimbor, they share the same elven roots for the word silver. However, in the Silmarillion, Celebrimbor was born in the First Age and dwelled with his father Corufin in Nargothrond. Corufin was one of the sons of Feanor, and so Celebrimbor was driven by a need to surpass his grandfather in the skill of crafting, for he, quote, "desired in his heart to rival the skill and fame of Feanor." Celebrimbor had a good streak in him, for he, quote, "repudiated the deeds of his father," after his father had attacked Beren and Luthien on their quest to reclaim a Silmaril. We don't see much else of Celebrimbor in the First Age, but in the Second Age he dwelled in Eregion, the land just outside the west gate of Khazad-dûm that had been established in part by Galadriel and Celeborn. Because of his skill in smithing and crafting, he had a great friendship with the dwarves, even drawing the symbols on the doors of Moria with his dwarvish friend Narvi. Quote, "In Eregion, the craftsmen of the Gwaith y Myrdain, the people of the jewelsmiths, surpassed in cunning all that have ever wrought, save only Feanor himself, and indeed greatest in skill among them was Celebrimbor." However, when Sauron came around in his fair form Anatar, Celebrimbor was quick to take his knowledge and counsel. At one point, Sauron had Celebrimbor and the other elven smiths so under his influence that they even revolted against Galadriel and Celeborn, causing them to leave Eregion and travel east to set up the rule of Lothlorien. Sauron taught Celebrimbor how to make powerful rings, and imbibed them with particular powers or wills. Thus, the 7 and the 9 rings of power were made under Sauron's direct influence. Sometime later, after Sauron had left to secretly build up his armies, Celebrimbor crafted the 3 elven rings, and so Sauron never touched those. As Gandalf says in the Council of Elrond and Fellowship, Celebrimbor first became aware of Sauron's deception when the latter had forged the one ruling ring. Quote, "For in the day that Sauron first put on the one, Celebrimbor, maker of the 3, was aware of him, and from afar he heard him speak these words," meaning the ring verse, one ring to rule them all and such. And so his evil purposes were revealed. Celebrimbor locked away the 7 and the 9, but of the 3 he gave one to Galadriel, and the other 2 he gave to Gil-Galad, who would later give one to Círdan. Celebrimbor was slain by Sauron himself, when Sauron had returned to Eregion to claim his right to the Rings of Power. But Celebrimbor was true, and never revealed the keepers of the 3. Quote, "Concerning the 3 rings, Sauron could learn nothing from Celebrimbor." Tolkien would even describe Celebrimbor as, quote, "heroic defender of Eregion in the Second Age war against Sauron." I hope you enjoyed this quick snapshot into the lore behind these 2 characters. Come back tomorrow, where we'll dive into the origin story of Elrond the Half-Elven, just to hold us over until we can watch the Rings of Power in the evening. Thanks for listening. My friends, if you enjoyed this episode, let me know by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing with your friends. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Lore of the Rings Podcast. For feedback on the show, please email me using the link in the show notes. Until next Thursday, remember, not all those who wander are lost.